I mean, it's pretty shocking. Matt, I mean, you spent your whole career as a prosecutor putting away guys like Bryan Kohberger. What do you make of Steve Gonsalves's strong statements against this, saying we weren't told, we found out on Friday that they might be talking to him about a plea. The next thing we got was a letter on Sunday with an email attachment saying it was done. We didn't have meaningful input and we don't want this.
Well, it's very sad, first of all. It is this should never happen, frankly, Megyn. You should never have such a disconnect with the family. Whether or not you do a plea or not is a separate issue than the family being informed and being afforded an opportunity to come to court and express their views. This is squarely in what's known as Marsy's Law, or the Crime Victims' Bill of Rights. And what you see in California, this is actually enshrined in the Constitution, where victims have a right to be heard and they have a right to be present for all significant proceedings. So, well, the reasons they give are good. I mean, they're well articulated. They explain the appellate process and how that goes on for years. But the disconnect of the family is a tragic element to this. Now, what's interesting is only the Gonsalves family is talking, which makes me think maybe the other families were on board. But it seems like such a short period of time. The turnaround is, I'm really kind of surprised by that they apparently heard from the defense very recently, like within the last couple of days, and then they turn this thing around and the plea is supposed to get out tomorrow. Well, the Gonsalves family is saying that they can't even get up there in time. So they're asking for the court to delay it, which could actually delay it, but I expect that this plea will go through.
Right, because they don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize the words, "I did it," coming out of this guy's mouth. Arthur, you used to be a prosecutor. You've spent more recent years as a defense attorney. Is Bryan Kohberger, when pleading guilty, going to have to allocute in a way that would tell us everything, that would answer any of our questions? Or are we more likely to get a guilty, 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 goodbye?
Yeah, Megyn, I was just involved in a case where I was representing the victims' families. And he actually went to trial. And even at the trial, they could see on videotape, they could see him doing it, but there's zero motive. And the family asked me, and I did go to the prosecutor and to the defense attorney and say, look, if you tell us why this happened, we'll, as the victim family, ask for less time than 25 to life, which is the maximum here in New York. And the guy refused to do so. And this family, is the anniversary of his death was yesterday. This family is guys in jail, 25 to life, but they have no idea why he was executed. And that may be the hardest thing for the family members. And it's the same thing here. It's obvious that this guy did it, but they want to know why. I will say, though, that family members who have to sit through this, and both of you know, there are often autopsy pictures that are shown, and you hear the description and how people died. And that's, you know, when you're a family member, you're sitting there, you're hearing about your 21-year-old gorgeous daughter and how she, met her death. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
Mm-hmm. So he's not going to have to go through it bit by bit, Matt.
No,
we're not gonna...
he'll just do the on this date at this time where you're at this location. Yes. And did you cause the death by this person? Yes. And did you cause the death by using a knife? Yes, I did. And did you intend to cause the death at that time? Yes. That's it.
But let me ask you this, because Matt, you've dealt with these serial killers before, and I mean, I think it's fair to say that was the road this guy was on. I mean, he committed 4 in one night and was obsessed with Ted Bundy. I
absolutely think so. Yeah. I mean, this is all the hallmarks, and he's sorry, Megyn, I don't want to step on
No,
you.
I was just going to say that these guys, these serial killers, they do like to talk. I mean, historically, they want to be celebrated. I'm sure this is another problem the family will have, whatever attention he's likely to get for the rest of his life. But on the upside, he might actually explain why he did what he did at some point.
Well, there's a narcissism to these guys that is off the charts. I mean, this is truly that's the psychopathic personality. It's almost a spectrum where we all like narcissism, or the narcissist is a buzzword these days on social media, but the psychopath is the extreme version of that. The problem is, Art is exactly right here. It's called a factual basis. When you do a plea, It's literally on this time with unlawful intent. I entered the home and caused the death of. It's very, very sterilized. And part of the power of these guys that you so often see is he's going to get off, I think, on the pain that he's caused those families. And you see that over and over again with serial killers like this. And I think that if I had to bet, Megan, I would bet he never says a word because he knows that it's still inflicting some degree of suffering to the families of these poor kids, them not knowing. And again, Art is absolutely right. A lot of times the families, they just want to know the answer why. But in a case like this, I don't think any answer that Kohberger could even give would be satisfactory to anybody. He did it probably because he wanted to do it. And it's one of the great questions in criminal law, like what makes these guys tick? What makes serial killers want to slaughter innocent people? And I'm with Art. I also do some victim representation in California. It's called Marcy's Law. And I've shared that experience with him. Like Art's exactly right. Families want that answer, but with a guy like Kohberger, they're probably just never going to get it outside of a trial, which I don't think we're going to see.
But it's interesting regarding the narcissistic part of it. He really won't be a household name the way like Casey Anthony is, and because correct me if I'm wrong, Megan, but I believe we were going to cover his trial because it was going to be televised, right, for like weeks. Yep. So when those cases get televised, Jodi Arias and Casey comes to mind. Obviously, OJ is the biggest one of all time. He would have been much more of a known guy than kind of going off quietly with a quick plea and it will be over. So it does fly in the face of it. Like if he really wanted, if this was what he wanted to do, would become this famous dude. Going through the trial is a sick thing to say, but it's a really good way to get your name out there, and that now has gone by the wayside.
So there's something interesting on this front. I'll tell you, Howard Bloom, who's been doing great work reporting on this from the beginning, sent me a note this morning saying he's hearing that a large part of the reason Kohberger cut this deal was to protect his parents. His father would have been called to testify about what was said during that cross-country trip they took together. You remember after the murders, the dad flew out there on, I think it was December 4th. The murders were November 22nd, overnight into the 23rd. And the dad traveled cross-country from Washington State back home to the Poconos in Pennsylvania with him. And on top of that, we learned this in the Dateline schedule, that at 6 a.m. the morning after the murders, Bryan Kohberger called his mother and spoke with her for nearly an hour. This is the first time hearing it was the mother. I knew he had called home and spoke with his mom for nearly an hour. He did not want his mother to have to testify about that call or his sister about confronting the father with her suspicions that Bryan may have done it. I don't know, Matt. I mean, does a sociopath, a psychopath like this have feelings for his dad or his mom? Is that possible?
We hear the term anthropomorphizing, which is when people start attributing human emotions to animals. And in a way, a guy like this, I think that what he's really worried about, Megan, is he's in Idaho and he could actually be executed for this. And I agree with Art. The evidence in this case is overwhelming. And especially those little things like those little selfies and things like that. He was going down, his defense team knew he was going down. And I think fundamentally, the psychopaths, the one human they actually care about is themselves. And I think that that's what motivated him. I don't think a guy like Kohberger actually cares about too many other people. And I think that that's a nice speculative sort of human interpretation of that. I think that he was worried about it literally in the state of Idaho's own neck more than what his family would go through. That's my take on it.
It's interesting though, and I was thinking about this morning preparing to come here. If I'm him, right? I don't like to equate myself to being him, but I would want to do some investigation as what life is like with life in prison. If it is like with the federal guys, like the World Trade Center bombers and stuff, where you're just in a cage, basically 23 hours a day, and every third day you get to go out, but the rest of the time you're in this little cage. And yeah, maybe you get a radio and you get a book. I don't know. At his age, would I want to live the next 50 or 60 years like that? Or would I rather prefer euthanasia? It'll take 10 years before they actually put a needle in his arm or shoot him or whatever they're going to do out there. But, living in a cage is for 50 or 60 years. That's rough. I mean, I speak to criminal defendants, right? No, it's not right. Exactly. I mean, I don't know. I would like to figure out, I would like to see if I'm him, I want to know, well, what's my life? Now, he may be going to a facility where there's college education, there's a barbershop, there's a dentist. I mean, prisons are small communities, right? They have to.
That you're raising a very good point, because what are we debating right now in California? Whether these Menendez brothers should be let out. Oh, they were young when this happened. They had an abusive dad. You know, like now with the benefit of all this hindsight, shouldn't we let them out of prison? And you know that when there's no death penalty, the odds of us getting in 20 years, Matt, oh, you know, he was young. He had autism spectrum disorder, as if that makes people murder for innocent victims, because they're already playing that card on the defense team. You know, he had some disorders where he saw visual snow. Really, there should be some sort of a mercy afforded his way. That as long as he's still breathing, that's still out there as a possibility.
Well, you're absolutely right. And you and I have talked about the Menendez brothers before, and that's exactly what we saw there. They received life without possibility of parole, and that turned out not to be life without possibility of parole, right? So you're absolutely right, Megyn. And online on this, there are a lot of conspiracy theorists that the prosecution even noted in their justification letter that they submitted publicly.
That was so weird. That was very weird.
It really is. That's the nightmare for the family.
Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But don't forget, while they are moving mountains for the good of the nation, you've got your personal savings to worry about. And one of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification, particularly with gold, like from Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. And Birch was an advertiser on this show 12 months ago. If you had purchased then, you'd be 40% richer today. Now's the time. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by burying in record quantities. Global instability and tension is high, and Birch Gold makes owning physical gold so easy. Easily convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898. And Birch Gold is going to send you a free info kit on gold. Look into it. See if it's right for you. There's no obligation, just useful information to help you make a decision. With an A+ rating, with a Better Business Bureau, and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text MK to 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.